Lawrence Mitchell stood outside St. Helena Medical Center, watching the rain turn the Philadelphia streets into mirrors of gray light. He hadn't been here in 14 years. The building looked different now, cleaner, more corporate, with glass doors that gleamed under modern lighting. But he knew every brick beneath that polished exterior. He'd watched those bricks being laid in 1996, had signed off on every architectural decision, had poured his life savings into making sure this hospital would serve people who'd been turned away everywhere else. Lawrence was 79 years old. His jacket was military green but faded, the patches barely visible anymore. Rain soaked through to his shoulders as he crossed the street, but he barely noticed. His mind was stuck somewhere between 1968 Vietnam and this cold November morning. He'd been a combat medic in the war. 22 years old, trying to keep teenagers alive in jungle mud while bullets tore through the air around them. He'd held dying boys in his arms, performed surgery by flashlight, written letters to mothers he'd never meet. And when he came home, hollow, traumatized, broken, he'd made himself a promise. If he survived, he would build something that healed instead of destroyed. It took him 28 years to keep that promise. He'd worked construction, saved relentlessly, married a nurse named Patricia who believed in his impossible dream. They'd lived in a tiny apartment for decades, driving the same old car, never taking vacations, putting every spare dollar toward the hospital fund. When Patricia died of ovarian cancer in 1994, fighting through a medical system that seemed designed to bankrupt rather than heal, Lawrence's dream became an obsession. He'd sold their house, cashed in his military pension, convinced 15 other veterans to pool their resources. Together they'd raised enough money to build St. Helena Medical Center, a hospital that would treat everyone regardless of their ability to pay. Opening day in 1996 was the proudest moment of Lawrence's life. He'd stood in the lobby with tears streaming down his face as the first patients walked through. A pregnant teenager with no insurance. An elderly man who'd been turned away from 3 other hospitals. A homeless veteran with pneumonia. All of them received care. All of them were treated with dignity. All of them mattered. For 11 years, Lawrence had been a fixture here. Not as an administrator, he had no medical degree, but as a founder who cared about the mission. He'd volunteered, fundraised, mentored young doctors, reminded everyone why this place existed. Then came the stroke in 2007. Left side paralyzed for months. Years of rehabilitation. Eventually he'd moved into a veterans care facility because he couldn't manage alone anymore. The hospital had sent cards at first, but cards stopped coming. People moved on. Memories faded. Until 3 weeks ago when he received the letter. It was from a law firm representing the hospital's board of directors. Cold, formal, typed on expensive paper. St. Helena Medical Center was being sold to a private healthcare corporation. The sale was nearly complete. Original stakeholders would receive nominal compensation for their historical contributions. $7,000. That's what they'd valued his life's work at. His entire savings. Patricia's memory. The sacrifices of 15 veterans who believed healing mattered more than profit. $7,000. Lawrence had tried calling the hospital. The receptionist didn't recognize his name. He tried emailing administrators. No response. So he decided to come in person to remind someone, anyone, what this hospital was built to be. Now he pushed through the automatic doors into a lobby he barely recognized. Everything was white marble and steel now. Expensive art on walls that used to display children's drawings. A reception desk that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. All the warmth, all the community spirit replaced by corporate polish. The young receptionist looked up as Lawrence approached. Her expression shifted immediately, professional courtesy replaced by barely concealed discomfort. He knew what she saw, an old man in worn clothes, soaking wet, probably confused. "Can I help you?" Her tone suggested she hoped the answer was no. "I need to speak with someone from administration," Lawrence said steadily. "My name is Lawrence Mitchell. I'm one of the hospital's founders. I received a letter about the sale. I don't see you listed for any appointments." She barely glanced at her screen. "You'll need to call and schedule. I've been calling for 3 weeks. Nobody returns my calls." Her expression hardened. "Sir, I can't just let people walk into administrative offices. If you leave your information, I can pass along a message. I don't need a message passed along. I need to speak with someone face to face. I founded this hospital. My name should be somewhere in your records. Sir, you need to lower your voice. I'm not yelling. I'm asking to speak with someone at the institution I helped build. The receptionist pressed a button on her desk. Security to the front desk. Lawrence's stomach dropped. That's not necessary. I'm just trying to. Two security guards appeared from opposite sides of the lobby. Both young, both wearing tactical-looking uniforms. The taller one, name tag reading Davis, approached with his hand resting near his belt. Sir, step away from the desk, Davis said firmly. I'm one of the founders, Lawrence said, hearing desperation creep into his voice. I just need 5 minutes with someone who remembers. Sir, if you don't have an appointment, you can't be here making demands. The second guard, Torres, had positioned himself behind Lawrence. Leave voluntarily or we'll escort you out. Escort me out? Lawrence couldn't believe this was happening. This hospital exists because people like me sacrificed everything. We built this place to serve the community, to heal people who couldn't afford. Last warning, Davis said. Leave now. Lawrence reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a folded photograph. Just look at this. It's from opening day. That's me standing right there with hands where I can see them. Davis grabbed Lawrence's wrist, twisting it behind his back. The photograph fell to the marble floor. Stop, please, I'm just... Pain shot through Lawrence's shoulder, the old stroke damage making his left side scream. His legs buckled. Torres grabbed his other arm. Together they dragged him toward the doors. Lawrence's feet scrambled for purchase on the slick floor. His canvas bag fell, contents spilling everywhere. Old documents, more photographs, a small box containing Patricia's wedding ring. People in the lobby stopped to stare. A mother pulled her child close. An elderly couple watched with uncomfortable expressions. Nobody intervened. The guards shoved Lawrence through the automatic doors into the rain. He stumbled, nearly fell, caught himself against a concrete pillar. His shoulder throbbed where Davis had grabbed him. His dignity lay shattered somewhere behind those closing glass doors, mixed with scattered photographs nobody would recognize. Don't come back, Davis called from the entrance. Next time we call the police. The doors slid shut with a soft hiss. Lawrence stood in the rain, staring at the building that represented everything good he'd ever tried to accomplish. Inside, scattered across that polished floor, was proof of who he was. Evidence of his sacrifice. Patricia's memory. The dreams of 15 veterans who'd believed in something bigger than themselves. And nobody cared. Nobody remembered. He was just a problematic old man, rightfully removed for causing a disturbance. Lawrence turned and walked into the rain, not knowing where he was going, not caring anymore. He walked for over an hour before his body gave out. Fairmount Park. A bench under oak trees that provided minimal shelter. His clothes were soaked through, his shoulder ached, his hands trembled from cold or shock or rage, maybe all three. He'd left everything behind. The photographs proving he'd founded St. Helena. The documents showing his $340,000 investment. The box with Patricia's ring and his congressional commendation for service in Vietnam. All of it abandoned on a marble floor, probably already swept up and thrown away by staff who had no idea what they were discarding. Lawrence closed his eyes, remembering Patricia. She'd been the one who believed when his dreams seemed impossible. She'd worked double shifts as a nurse so they could save more. She'd lived in that tiny apartment without complaint. And when the cancer came, when she was dying in a hospital that cared more about billing than healing, she'd made him promise to keep fighting for their dream. You'll build it, she'd whispered in her final days, and it'll save thousands of lives. She'd been dead for 18 years, but the grief felt fresh today. I'm sorry, Trish, he whispered to the rain. I couldn't protect it. Excuse me, are you all right? Lawrence opened his eyes. A woman stood nearby, maybe 35, holding an umbrella. She wore medical scrubs under a rain jacket. I'm fine, he said automatically. You don't look fine. You look hypothermic. She moved closer, her nurse's assessment evident in her eyes. And your shoulder, you're favoring it like it's injured. Do you need help? I don't need anything from any hospital. The bitterness in his voice made her pause. She sat down beside him, holding her umbrella to cover them both. What happened? Maybe it was kindness after cruelty. Maybe it was exhaustion. But Lawrence found himself telling her everything, Vietnam, the promise, Patricia's death, building St. Helena, the stroke, years of being forgotten, the letter, trying to speak with someone, being thrown out by security. The woman listened without interrupting. When he finished, tears streaked her face. That's St. Helena? On Chestnut Street? Lawrence nodded. I work there, she said quietly. Emergency department. My name is Dr. Angela Reeves. Of course she worked there. Of course. I'm so sorry, Angela said. I had no idea about the hospital's history. Nobody talks about the founders anymore. Everything's about the sale now, about corporate restructuring, about profit margins. She paused. It doesn't feel like a place that cares about people anymore. That's what happens, Lawrence said tiredly. Institutions forget. Money becomes more important than mission. Angela was quiet for a moment. Then, the things you dropped, they're probably still there. If we go back, if I'm with you, they can't throw you out. You be with a staff member. That changes everything. They'll just call security again. Not if you're with me. Come on. She stood, holding out her hand. Let's get your belongings. And then we're going to find someone who'll listen. Lawrence stared at her offered hand, this bridge back to the place that had just destroyed him. But he thought about Patricia. About her fierce belief that fighting for what mattered was always worth the risk. He took Angela's hand. If this story is hitting you the way it's hitting me, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications. Stories like Lawrence's, about sacrifice forgotten, dignity denied, institutions that lose their way, these need to be told. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you witnessed someone being dismissed when they deserved honor? Your voice matters. Now let's see what happens when Lawrence returns. They walked back to St. Helena together, Angela's umbrella sheltering them both. At the entrance, Angela squeezed his arm gently. Let me handle this first. The automatic doors opened. The lobby was busier now, shift change, people coming and going. A different receptionist sat at the desk, an older woman who smiled when she saw Angela. Hey, Dr. Reeves. Forget something? Actually, yes. Some items from this morning, manila folder, photographs, a canvas bag. They belong to my friend here. The receptionist glanced at Lawrence, a quick assessment, but Angela's presence legitimized him. Let me check lost and found. She disappeared into a back office. Angela turned to Lawrence and whispered, see? No confrontation. Just advocacy. The receptionist returned with his canvas bag and a folder. These were turned in by security. There's also a small box. Want that too? Yes, please, Lawrence said, his voice thick with relief. When she handed everything over, Lawrence clutched the items to his chest. Patricia's ring was still safe. The photographs were slightly bent but intact. Everything he'd feared was lost forever had been preserved. Thank you, he managed. Angela guided him toward the elevators. Administrative offices are on the 6th floor. I'm taking you to see Margaret Caldwell. She's been here since the beginning. If anyone will remember, it's her. They rode up in silence. Lawrence watched the floor numbers light up, each one taking him closer to another potential rejection. The 6th floor was quiet, carpeted hallways, frosted glass doors. Angela led him to an office labeled Margaret Caldwell, Director of Community Programs. Angela knocked. Come in. They entered to find a black woman in her 60s surrounded by files and photographs. She looked up, confusion crossing her face when she saw Angela with a rain-soaked elderly man. Angela? What's going on? Margaret, this is Lawrence Mitchell. He's one of St. Helena's founders. He came here this morning to discuss the hospital sale, and security physically removed him before anyone would listen. I found him in the park and brought him back because his story deserves to be heard. Margaret's expression transformed, confusion to recognition to shock. She stood slowly. Lawrence Mitchell. Oh my God. I know your name. She moved to a filing cabinet, pulled out a folder and extracted a faded photograph. It showed a younger Lawrence standing with a group in front of St. Helena on opening day, his arm around a woman who must have been Patricia. This is you, Margaret said, her voice filled with horror. You really founded this hospital. And security threw you out. Lawrence nodded, unable to speak. Margaret's hands trembled as she set the photograph on her desk. Sit down. Both of you. Please. Over the next hour, Lawrence told his story again. But this time, someone with authority was listening. Someone who could do something about it. He explained about the letter, about being offered $7,000 for a legacy that cost him everything. He described trying to contact administrators, being ignored, coming here in person. He recounted the receptionist calling security, being grabbed, slammed against the desk, dragged outside into the rain. They twisted my arm, Lawrence said quietly, touching his shoulder. Treated me like a threat when all I wanted was to remind someone what this hospital was built to be. Margaret's face had cycled through shock, anger, and finally a grim determination. This is exactly what I've been warning about for years. We've lost our soul. We've become a business that happens to provide healthcare instead of a healing institution that happens to need money. She picked up her phone, made 3 quick calls, to the hospital's lead surgeon who'd been here since 1998, to the historical archivist, to a senior nurse who'd trained under Patricia herself. I'm gathering witnesses, Margaret explained. People who remember what this hospital used to be. If we're going to fight this sale, we need allies. Within 30 minutes, her office was crowded. Dr. James Park, surgeon, Robert Hayes, archivist, and nurse supervisor Linda Washington, who'd known Patricia. Margaret showed them the photograph, explained who Lawrence was, described what had happened that morning. The reactions were immediate and fierce. They assaulted a founder? James demanded. Who authorized that? Protocol for disruptive individuals, Margaret said bitterly. Which is the problem. We've become so obsessed with liability that we've forgotten basic human dignity. Robert was examining Lawrence's documents, his eyes wide. These are the original incorporation papers. Founding charter. Financial records. We've been looking for this documentation for years. Most of the founding records were lost during a database migration in 2005. Linda was staring at Lawrence with tears in her eyes. Patricia trained me when I was a new nurse. She was the kindest person I ever worked with. She used to say, "We're not here to process patients, we're here to heal people." I can't believe they threw her husband out like garbage. So what do we do? Angela asked. Margaret's expression hardened. We fight. We make sure everyone knows who Lawrence is and what he sacrificed. We create enough pressure that the board has to listen. Over the next 2 hours they planned. Robert would compile every piece of historical documentation. James would reach out to long-term staff. Linda would organize nurses who still believed in the original mission. And Margaret would contact the media. Local news loves stories like this, she said. Elderly veteran hospital founder, assaulted by the institution he created while trying to save it from corporate takeover? That's front-page material. Lawrence listened with a mixture of hope and exhaustion. Part of him wanted to believe they could make a difference. But another part, ground down by years of being forgotten, whispered that it was too late. But he stayed. He listened. He let these people fight for him because he was too tired to fight alone. As evening fell, Margaret drove Lawrence back to his care facility. I'm picking you up at 9 tomorrow, she said. Channel 6 News wants to interview you. Lawrence nodded, overwhelmed. What happened to you today was wrong, Margaret said gently. I can't undo it. But I promise you, everyone will know the truth about who you are and what you built. Your legacy matters. Lawrence's eyes burned with tears. Thank you for seeing me. He walked slowly into the care facility, his body aching, but feeling less alone than he had in years. The news story aired 2 days later. Lawrence watched it in Margaret's office, surrounded by the people who'd chosen to fight for him. The segment was 6 minutes long, devastating and powerful. It opened with footage of St. Helena's modern exterior, then cut to archival photographs from opening day. Lawrence's younger face filled the screen, smiling beside Patricia. The reporter's voiceover was precise. This is Lawrence Mitchell, Vietnam War combat medic who spent 28 years saving every penny to build a hospital that would heal everyone, regardless of ability to pay. The segment detailed the hospital's founding, the sacrifices made by Lawrence and Patricia and 15 other veterans. It showed financial records proving Lawrence had invested $340,000, his entire life savings, into creating St. Helena. Then came security camera footage from the lobby. Lawrence at the desk, clearly distressed but not threatening. The receptionist calling security. Guards approaching. Lawrence being grabbed, forced against the desk, dragged toward the exit as his belongings scattered. The reporter's voice continued. Lawrence Mitchell, 79 years old, partially disabled from a stroke, was physically removed from St. Helena Medical Center by guards who didn't recognize him and administrators who wouldn't listen. Cut to Lawrence's interview, filmed in Margaret's office. He looked small and fragile, but his voice was steady. "I just wanted someone to remember what this hospital was built to be. But nobody remembered. To them, I was just a problem to be removed." The segment ended with the reporter standing outside St. Helena. As this hospital prepares to be sold to a corporation known for prioritizing profit over patients, one question remains. What do we owe the people who sacrificed everything to build the institutions we depend on? Margaret's office erupted in reactions: anger, vindication, grief. "It's already viral," Robert said, checking his laptop. 40,000 views in 20 minutes. The comments: "People are furious." Margaret's phone rang. She answered, listened, then her expression shifted to fierce triumph. "When?" "Yes, he'll be there." She hung up. "The board has called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. They want you there." "Why?" Lawrence asked. "Because the phone lines are melting down. Because protesters are gathering outside. Because donors are threatening to pull funding unless the board addresses how you were treated." She smiled. "Because sometimes truth actually matters." The meeting was held in the main conference room. The board sat around a long table, all looking uncomfortable. At the head sat Richard Garrett, the CEO, mid-50s, expensive suit, practiced corporate composure. He stood when Lawrence entered with Margaret and Angela. "Mr. Mitchell, thank you for coming. Please sit." Lawrence sat, acutely aware of how different this was from yesterday's lobby confrontation. Richard cleared his throat. "I want to begin with an apology. What happened to you was unacceptable. Our security personnel acted inappropriately, did they?" Lawrence interrupted quietly. "Or did they act exactly as your policies encourage? You've created a culture where profit matters more than people, where anyone who doesn't look appropriate gets removed, where the mission I built this hospital on has been systematically erased. Mr. Mitchell, healthcare economics have changed. I understand perfectly," Lawrence said, his voice stronger now. "I understand you're selling this hospital to a corporation that will eliminate charity care, raise prices, and treat patients like revenue streams. I understand you've decided my life's work and my wife's memory are worth $7,000. I understand profit has become more important than healing." One board member started to protest, but Richard held up a hand. "In light of recent developments, we've been reconsidering. There's another buyer, a non-profit coalition interested in maintaining the community-focused mission. Their offer is lower, which is why we initially rejected it. But given public sentiment and the concerns you've raised, we're willing to negotiate." Margaret sat forward. "What guarantees would they provide about maintaining programs?" "That would be negotiated. But they've indicated willingness to include mission-focused language in the agreement. Protection for charity care, community health initiatives, staff retention." "And what does the board need?" Lawrence asked. "Assurance that the negative publicity ends. That this doesn't become an ongoing crisis." "You mean you want me to be quiet?" Lawrence said. "We want to work toward a solution that honors your legacy while ensuring this hospital survives." Lawrence looked around the table. Some faces showed genuine remorse. Others showed calculation. But beneath it all was recognition that they couldn't control this situation through usual means. "I want to see the nonprofit's proposal," Lawrence said. "I want detailed commitments about program protection. I want community oversight built into governance. And I want a memorial that explains what this hospital was built to be and why that mission must never be abandoned." Richard nodded. "We can arrange that. And I want patient advocacy protocol strengthened. Community input formalized. The mission statement Patricia and I wrote in 1994 restored and displayed in every department." Lawrence stood, his voice carrying decades of conviction. "This hospital exists because people believed healing was more important than profit. Because veterans who'd seen the worst of humanity decided to build something good. Because my wife died believing her sacrifice would save lives. You don't get to erase that. You don't get to transform this into just another corporate asset." The room was silent. Richard stood, extended his hand. "You have my word. We'll honor your legacy." Lawrence searched Richard's eyes for sincerity. Finally he shook his hand. "See that you do." 3 months later, Lawrence stood in St. Helena's lobby, transformed since that rainy November morning. One entire wall was now dedicated to the hospital's history. Photographs covered the space: opening day, founders together, community events. At the center was a bronze plaque with Patricia's face beside Lawrence's, both young and hopeful, alongside the mission statement they'd written. St. Helena Medical Center exists to heal without judgment, to serve without discrimination, and to remember that every patient is someone's beloved. We were built on sacrifice and sustained by compassion. May we never forget the difference between caring for people and processing them. Below were the names of all 15 founders. Lawrence touched Patricia's bronze face. "We did it, Trish. We almost lost everything, but we did it." The sale to the nonprofit coalition had been finalized. Charity care was restored. Community programs reinstated. Staff rehired. The heart of what they'd built was preserved. It wasn't perfect, it would never be exactly what it was in 1996. But the fundamental belief that healing mattered more than profit had survived. "Mr. Mitchell?" Lawrence turned to find Davis, the security guard from that terrible morning, standing nearby. The young man looked profoundly uncomfortable. "I wanted to apologize," Davis said, "for what I did, how I treated you. I was following protocol, but that's not an excuse. I should have listened. I'm deeply sorry." Lawrence studied him. "Have you learned something?" "Yes, sir. That protocols exist to protect people, not replace judgment. That following orders doesn't mean stopping thinking. That everyone who walks through these doors deserves dignity." "Then you're forgiven," Lawrence said gently. "Use what you learned. Make sure nobody else gets treated the way you treated me." After Davis left, Angela appeared with coffee. Big day. Today was the official memorial dedication. The hospital had invited everyone: staff, patients, community members, veterans from every conflict. Margaret found them an hour later. "Ready? There are about 200 people waiting." Lawrence's hands trembled. "I haven't given a speech in years. Just tell them the truth. That's all anyone needs." When Lawrence walked into the crowded lobby, applause erupted. It started with the veterans and spread until 200 people were standing, honoring not just Lawrence but everything he represented. He stood before the memorial, looking at faces young and old. And he thought about the journey from that promise in Vietnam to this moment. Richard spoke first, offering formal apologies and explaining changes being implemented. Then Angela shared finding Lawrence in the park. Then Margaret talked about fighting to preserve the hospital's soul. Then Lawrence approached the microphone. "I'm not good at speeches," he started. Warm laughter. "I'm just an old man who made a promise and was stubborn enough to keep it. But I want to tell you about Patricia." He told them about her work as a nurse, about their decades of sacrifice, about her death from cancer. "Patricia never got to see this hospital open. But I'm standing here because of her. Every life saved in these rooms is her legacy as much as mine." He paused, looking around. 3 months ago, I was thrown out of this building by people who didn't know who I was. And I understand why. I looked like someone who didn't belong. But that's the point. Nobody should be judged by appearance. Everyone deserves dignity. His voice grew stronger. This hospital was built on a simple principle. Healing is a human right. We're supposed to serve everyone. We're supposed to remember that every patient is somebody's beloved. We're supposed to choose compassion over profit, people over procedures, humanity over efficiency. He looked directly at the cameras. "I'm telling this story because institutions have short memories. Because missions get compromised. Because it's easy to forget why we built things. But we can't forget. Because the moment we do, we become something we never wanted to be." The applause was thunderous. Afterward, people approached, veterans thanking him, staff sharing stories about patients helped by charity care, community members expressing gratitude. An elderly woman pressed a letter into his hands, tears streaming. "My granddaughter was born here in 1997. 2 months premature. We couldn't afford NICU care. But St. Helena treated her anyway. Saved her life. She's 27 now, a teacher, healthy and happy. Because of you." Lawrence held the letter like it was sacred because it was. This was why he'd sacrificed everything. This was why Patricia's loss had been bearable. As guests left, Lawrence stood alone before the memorial again, studying Patricia's smile in the photographs. Angela appeared beside him. "You did good today." "We did good," Lawrence corrected. "I couldn't have fought this alone. But we did fight. And we won something worth winning." Lawrence nodded. You know what's strange? Getting thrown out that morning was the worst and best thing that could have happened. Because it forced this hospital to confront what it had become. Sometimes you have to break something before you can rebuild it properly. They stood in comfortable silence, watching evening light filter through the lobby windows and illuminate the bronze memorial that would stand for generations. Lawrence thought about the years ahead, years he might not have many of, but years that now felt full of meaning. He would return regularly, would monitor the hospital's mission, would tell his story to anyone who needed to hear it. But more than that, he'd proven something, that truth matters. That fighting for what's right matters. That one person's story, honestly told and truly heard, can change institutions and remind communities of their best selves. Patricia would have been proud. As Lawrence left St. Helena that evening, walking through doors that opened with respect instead of closing with violence, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not naive hope, but earned hope that came from seeing people choose compassion, justice, and memory over convenience and profit. The world was still difficult. Healthcare was still broken in countless ways. And old veterans still fell through system cracks. But tonight, in this hospital built on sacrifice, Lawrence Mitchell's legacy was secure. Patricia's memory was honored. And the mission they'd written together would guide healing for generations. Sometimes that's all we can ask, to build something good, to fight for it when threatened, and to trust that truth and dignity are powerful enough to change the world, one hospital, one heart, one story at a time. Thank you for staying with Lawrence's story. If you're feeling this mixture of heartbreak and hope, please share this story with someone who needs it. Leave a comment about forgotten heroes in your community who deserve honor. Tell me about institutions that lost their way and found it again. Subscribe and turn on notifications. These stories about dignity, sacrifice, and demanding better from ourselves and our institutions, these are the stories that matter most. Remember, everyone you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about. Everyone has a story deserving to be heard. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply see people for who they really are. Take care of each other. Honor those who came before you. And never forget that healing starts with recognizing the dignity in every human being.